All you need is a little bit of lace and some candlesticks to spruce up your Halloween decor this year. To get started, I first removed the lace from the dress by separating the lace from the slip. Then I cut around the seams and zipper to fully remove the fabric. I saved the remainder of the dress to use for future sewing projects. Then I trimmed up the fabric a bit more to remove any seams. Next, I placed a generous bead of hot glue around the top of the candlesticks and attached a styrofoam ball to it. Then I took some craft wire and wrapped it around the candlestick near the top a few times so I had equal amounts of length on either side and the wire stayed up on its own. Then I wrapped the ends of the wire together to form sort of a half circle, then bent the wire up. I also made sure it was a similar size to hold a fabric pumpkin. For the next step, I draped a small piece of lace over the top of the styrofoam ball to conceal it a bit, then continued draping lace fabric over the top until I was happy with the overall look. I removed each layer of fabric from the form and started with the very first layer, then dipped it into the fabric Mod Podge to fully coat the fabric. Once the fabric was covered in an even layer of Mod Podge, I draped it over my form. I arranged the fabric according to how I wanted the final look to be, then allowed the fabric to dry overnight. The next day, I cut 2 circles of black fleece fabric per candlestick with a hole punch. I found putting a piece of cardstock behind it allowed me to cut through the fleece better. I hot glued the circles onto the face as eyes, then hot glued a fabric pumpkin to one. For the other candlestick, I gathered a small group of dried flowers I already had on hand. Now I have 2 beautiful and unique upcycled candlestick ghosts that are the perfect last-minute Halloween decoration. I hope this inspired you to repurpose thrifted items into beautiful candlestick ghosts this Halloween season.
While I was decorating my fireplace mantle for fall, I had a wild idea. What if I turned one of my small pre-lit Christmas trees into Halloween decor? Then I grabbed a white ruffled window curtain I'd found at a thrift store for just under $4. I draped it right over the tree and tucked the edges in around the base. Next, I folded a piece of black felt in half and cut out 2 matching circles for the eyes. A little packing tape held them in place, no glue needed since I wanted to keep this temporary. And that's it. From attic storage to spooky, cute ghost, the ruffles give it a sweet, almost Victorian touch that fits perfectly in my home. And the best part? My little ghost looks adorable in the daylight and at night. When the lights are plugged in, it really comes to life.
For this project, I first headed to Home Goods near me and spotted this cute metal hanging cauldron that had to come home with me. Then I checked out the candle section at the Dollar Tree and grabbed 8 orange pillar candles, a couple white ones, and 1 black one. The first task was melting down the candles. Once the water was boiling, it took about 15 to 20 minutes for the candle wax to be completely melted. While the candle wax was cooling slightly, I shifted my attention to the cauldron. First, I removed the cauldron from the stand to make it easier to work with. Then I hot glued 2 of the candle wicks to the bottom of the cauldron, making sure they were spaced evenly. Once the candle wax had cooled slightly, I filled the cauldron with orange wax. With the remaining candles, I decided to make some wax melts. I played around with mixing white and black and white and orange wax. To create a marble type effect, I used an old paintbrush to paint a thin layer of black wax to the outer portion of the mold. Once that thin layer of wax was cooled, I added in some white wax to the black and orange to the white. I used a hairdryer on the highest setting to melt the top layer of the wax in the cauldron, then began placing the wax melt all around the inside of the cauldron, making a sort of bubbling effect. The final step was adding the cauldron back onto the stand, and now I have this cute DIY bubbling cauldron candle that's perfect for spooky season. I hope this cauldron candle tutorial inspired you to make your own this Halloween.
Head to the craft store and grab some white yarn, a sheet of black felt, and get out your scissors and craft glue. Start by cutting 5 pieces of yarn to equal length. Mine were about 9 inches long. Arrange them into upside-down U-shapes on your pillow. I placed 1 in the center of my pillow and then 1 in each corner, spaced evenly from the middle. Next, grab your craft glue. I'm using this tacky glue from the craft store, and glue each of these U-shaped yarn pieces into place. Once these are secure, cut a bunch more yarn pieces to about the same length. Next, cover the inside of one of your U-shapes with glue and press your yarn pieces down, following the outline of that first piece of yarn. Now grab your scissors and trim the yarn ends so they're all even and straight along the bottom for a nice, neat look. Then it's just repeat, repeat, repeat. Move to the next U, add your glue, and fill it with yarn. This part is super easy once you get going, and it would be a great project to do while you're watching a Halloween movie or chatting with friends during craft night. Now let's make these little yarn shapes come to life. Cut out small black circles from your felt. These do not need to be perfect, just aim to keep them all close to the same size. Glue 2 circles onto each of your yarn shapes and suddenly you have little ghosts. How fun is that? A plain throw pillow that was just sitting around is now full of adorable yarn ghosts. I just think they're so cute. I love how my pillow turned out, and I think it's the perfect DIY to get into the Halloween spirit.
I recently saw some candles from Pottery Barn and loved how pretty they were. I thought it'd be fun to try making them myself. To start, I wanted to color the glass. One of my favorite ways to do this is with clear glue. I'm going to put a little glue into a small container and then add a bit of paint. I'm going to make my candles blue, white, and green, so I'll make a glue mixture in each of those colors. Now that I have the glue tinted, I'm going to paint it all over the glass dish on the outside. I find it easiest to turn them upside down over something like a paint can so that I can get right to the edges. I'm going to leave these for a few hours so that the glue and paint mixture has time to fully dry before moving on. I want to make my candles look really sparkly and pretty, like etched glass, so I'm going to add some white glitter to them. Using some Mod Podge, I'm going to paint it around the dishes, giving each one some stripes, but in a different pattern on each glass dish. With the Mod Podge painted on, I can sprinkle the white glitter all over it, and then when it dries, the glitter will stay in place. As the Mod Podge and glitter are drying, I'm going to go ahead and get my wax ready to make the candles inside. I grabbed these pillar candles from the dollar store, and I'm going to melt them down. While the candle's melting, I can get the wicks ready in the dishes. I'm just going to use a couple of skewers to hold the wicks in place. These dishes are big enough that I think I'm going to put 3 wicks in each one. Now that my wax is melted, I want to add some essential oil to give my candles a beautiful scent. It's time to fill the glass dishes. I find this easiest to do with a small measuring cup so that I can control the amount that's going in and where I'm pouring it. I want to add a small amount first just so that I can hold the wicks in place right where I want them. Now I can add the rest of the wax until the containers are about a ½ inch or so from the top of the edge. The final thing to do before my new candles are ready is to remove the skewers and then trim the wicks. How pretty are these Pottery Barn inspired candles? They even smell as good as they look.